Hey guys, welcome to one of my favorite videos of the year. Today we're going to be talking about my September TBR and my autumnal pile of possibilities, which might be excessively large, but autumn is all about the vibes and I love reading those autumnal vibes and reading while those autumnal vibes are going on around me. So there's just so many books that I want to read in this season, and yeah, so it's gonna be a pile of possibilities because I'm not gonna get to all of them. But I'm so excited to share this list of books with you. My little guy keeps saying like the word for instead of with, and I think he has now rubbed that off on me and I no longer know how to talk. Well, anyway, I'm gonna be sharing this list of books with you. That makes so much more sense. We are gonna start with my September TBR. Now I'm just gonna be sharing books that like I fully intend on reading in September. I have learned after my booktube break here that I like having a little bit more flexibility. It's weird. Sometimes I really like a TBR and it makes that decision fatigue non-existent. And then other times I just feel tied to a TBR and it kind of stresses me out a little bit. And I'm just kind of in a phase where I don't want a large TBR, even though I want to read all the books. So we're going to start with the books that I really plan on reading in September, and then just tons of vibes books for autumn. So the first book we're going to be talking about is the book for my Read Your Bookshelf challenge. Now it's almost time for me to be thinking about next year's Read Your Bookshelf challenge. If you guys have suggestions for prompts, leave those in the comments because I'm open to ideas. So this year, every book that we're reading plays off of the book we read the month before. And I forgot to bring my paper downstairs, but I'm pretty sure that the book that we're reading for September, we have to turn to page 50 in our August book. So I have my August book here. And one of the words on that page 50 needs to be in the title of our September book. So I'm hoping to go for like a word that's not like a or the, like a little bit more of a distinguishing word. And if your page 50 doesn't have words or it doesn't have enough words to help you pick a book, you can go to 51, you can go to 49. Like, this is all very flexible. But page 50 in what Katie did has a lot of really good words, and I haven't I kind of perused them a while ago and I didn't let myself think about whether or not I had books with these words, but I'm going to throw out a bunch of words. And then I'm going to see if I can think of a book that I own that has one of these words. So we've got fairy, story, circus. This is the first half of the first line. Things, burglars, afraid, night, earth. Oh man, there's so many good ones. Teaspoons, that's random. That's probably not going to be in a title. Bright, butter knife. Some funny words here for thinking about them being in a title. Gratitude, sore throat, knife again. Wow, what was going on here? Sight, world, cat, rocking chair, delicate, comfortable, family, pictures, drowned, sea, photographs, boxes, jars, noise, unusual. Those are like the words that jump out from that page. Now, do any of the books that I have, of course I have a ton of books from my autumnal TBR here, and I don't think any of them have one of those words. So I'm gonna look at my TBR shelf and my spreadsheet that has my wrapped TBR books in there and see if one of them will work. Lots of good words, let's see. Okay, just looking at my TBR shelf, not looking at the spreadsheet that has my wrapped books, I did come up with 2 books that are options, and I'm totally up for either one of these. So I have The Nature of Fragile Things by Susan Meisner. This is 1906. I probably dual timeline, hers usually are, although I'm not sure if it is. It might not be. San Francisco earthquake. And then I have Yours is the Night. So I had Things and I had Night. This is World War I, and hers are usually dual timeline. So I could go for either one of these. I think I will just go for this one. Yours is the Night by Amanda Dykes. Her writing is very lyrical and I love that, and I feel like I mean, I was gonna say, I feel like that's autumnal vibes, but I also feel like it's vibes all year round. I just really like her writing. I can totally understand that not everyone would, but I do. So this is going to be my read your bookshelf book for September. Yes, that's the month we're doing. And then I have a bunch of other books that I need to read. So every month, one of my patrons gets picked as the patron of the month. And so this month, her name is Jolene, and she gave me a bunch of options, but we are reading Half a World Away by Cynthia. No idea how to pronounce her last name. This one, I think I originally bought from Book Outlet because it has to do with foster care or adoption or something. Electricity, the flowing of electromagnetic particles. It creates lightning, turns on the TV, generates power, a microscopic current, something we cannot see that connects us all. This concept fascinates 12-year-old Jaden, but what he can't understand is this: he doesn't feel connected to anyone. So this is a middle grade book. It should be a quick read. Might be a little heartbreaking, but I'm always down for that. So this one is book 2. Then at the end of September, we're going to be doing a live video, myself along with Amy, and we are going to be reading Pat of Silver Bush and having a discussion about it. This is an Ella Montgomery book. It is the first in a duology, I think. There's also Mistress Pat. I think that's book 2. And I don't really know anything about it other than it's like time I read an Ella Montgomery again. I want to know how the first sentence starts. Oh, and I think I'll soon have to be doing some rooting in the parsley bed, said Judy Plum as she began to cut Winnie's red crepe dress into strips suitable for hooking. That's not really the first sentence I would have expected from an Ella Montgomery book, although I don't really know how hers usually start, but I mean, her books are always autumnal vibes, especially if you're reading the Anne series. One of my favorite quotes is, "I'm so glad I live in a world where there are Octobers. I really need to start that bookish shop up ASAP so I can get that shirt in there." So I'm going to be reading this one. There will be a date to be announced at some point yet. Then 2 books I mentioned in my last video that I hauled that I would like to read either before the end of August here or in September are All Creatures Great and Small by James Herriot. This has to do with a veterinarian in the Yorkshire Moors or Yorkshire Dales, which I don't know what the difference is exactly, but a dale is a valley. I don't really know, but I tried this from the library, didn't really enjoy it honestly, but everyone thinks I'm gonna love it, so I'm gonna try it again. This one Miranda Mills is doing for a book club in August on her channel, and I don't think I'll have it done by the end of August for sure, but I think I could really go for some like England vibes. We should be counting how many times I've said vibes already in this video. And then the other one, this is her September book club, is Agatha Christie 12 New Mysteries. They're Miss Marple mysteries written by 12 authors with Miss Marple solving them. I wanted to read this book ever since I heard about it, so I'm excited to have it in my hands, and I'm definitely going to be reading this in September if I can even wait that long. Honestly, out of these 2, I'd rather read this one first. I might read this in August and this one in September. We will see. And I'm pretty sure this is the last book. Yeah. The last book that I definitely want to get to in September is The Reading List. This one is, I don't really know anything about it, but it is my in-person library book club book that we will be discussing in September. I've heard like mediocre things. I feel like the premise of this book sounds really good, but it sounds like the follow-through isn't that great. Because it is a book club that we are reading with my library, honestly I have like lower expectations because I have different reading tastes than most of the ladies in the group. So we will see. This is an unforgettable and heartwarming debut about a chance encounter and a list of library books that forges unexpected connections between readers. A love letter to some of our most cherished novels. Which, I mean, like, this sounds like a good book to do for a library book club. And I wanted to read it, but if it hadn't been for this book club, I probably wouldn't. So it's nice to give me that push to read it. So let's see here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are 6 books that I need to read in the month of September. Well, these 2 are just like really want to. The other ones I have reasons to read them. So I'm definitely going to be reading those, and I am going to go for a little rainy walk and then come back and share my fall TBR, which I think is a good one. Okay, wearing one of my autumnal sweaters. Honestly, I wear them all year round, but I mean, you've got mail. I want to talk about my autumnal TBR. Seems perfect. Where do I even begin? The list is large. Large. I kind of arranged them like smallest-ish to biggest, so that's how we're gonna go. One book I would really like to get to this autumn, which I'm not sure I will, but I would love to start the Mistborn Era 2 by Brandon Sanderson. The first one, I think this is the first one. Whatever the first one is, possibly The Alloy of Law. So in Mistborn, which was my like really first fantasy dive, my first introduction to Sanderson, it was like a world where you could ingest certain metals. Certain metals would give you certain powers, like certain people were able to do this and get certain powers, etc. I think I read that my first summer on BookTube, so it's been 3 years, possibly, definitely possible. And I have not read Era 2, and I need to. And this is kind of Western somehow. It's like Mistborn but Western. And I know that Sanderson is starting Era 3, which is like Mistborn but I think in the 80s or something like that. I don't know. I am so curious. I can't believe I haven't started the series yet. So I would really like to start this. My only reason I might not is because his Secret Project book 4 is coming out in October that I want to read. And I think he's finishing the Skyward series. That book should be released in November. So if that were to happen, if I were to read all of those, I might not read this, but I really would like to. Definitely time to start on this series, like as soon as I can. Then this is a series that I'm so embarrassed. I read book 1 forever ago, before BookTube, before my time on BookTube at least. I would really like to read Emily Climbs. This is a book that comes up often that I like mention I want to read and I just never do. Emily is the darker version of Ella Montgomery's Anne series. She's much more intense, and yeah, I've read book 1. Enjoyed it. Book 2 feels very autumnal, maybe like winter-ish. I should really get started on this. It's only a 3-book series. I have no reason not to. In this book, it's been a long time since I read book 1. So it says 13-year-old Emily Starr was born with a desire to write. I feel like that's my daughter right there, except she's gonna be 13 in a month and a bit. But yeah, need to read some Emily. Oh, okay. I guess we're just like outing myself here. All these books that I say I want to read. At Home in Mitford. How many times have I said I was going to read this book? I have read, I'm on page 10. And I think I started this last fall. Does it even start on page 1? Yeah, it starts on page 1. So I've read almost 10 full pages. I need to. I think I'm going to love it. I think this is like all the English vibes that I'm going to love. For some reason, I wasn't sucked in, and I have been scared to pick it back up because I think I want to love it, but I'm scared I won't. So we're set in Mitford. I thought this was English. Now I'm scared that I'm wrong. I gotta look this up. This is gonna bother me. That's right. It's set in North Carolina, which, I mean, I should still want to read then. Maybe that's why I stopped it, because I realized it wasn't England. I don't know. I think it will still have good vibes. Most people think I'm gonna like this book, so I'd like to get to it. This one is kind of a bit of an exception because I am at 320 pages into it. I started this in the winter and was really enjoying it, but oddly put it aside. This is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. So it's a really long book. I think it's like almost exactly 1,000 pages, and I'm this far in. I was loving it. This is like cozy fireplace with a library, like those kind of vibes. There's so many good quotes that I loved that that were just those kind of vibes. Yeah, like page 48. This is kind of the vibes. Consider, if you will, a man who sits in his library day after day. A small man of no particular personal attractions. His book is on the table before him. A fresh supply of pens, a knife to cut new nibs, ink, paper, notebooks, all is convenient to hand. There is always a fire in the room. He cannot do with a fire. He feels the cold. The room changes with the seasons. He does not. Like, it has the vibes. It has like a very slow feel to it, and I wasn't in that mood at 320 pages, I guess, and I knew I wanted to finish it, but it wasn't the time, and I feel like autumn is the time. So I would love to finish this book. It's very weird for me to like put down a book that I'm enjoying. Very strange. This is another one I've wanted to read for a long time. Rook by Stephen James. This is book 2 in this series, and this is my like deciding factor if I continue the series or not. I liked certain aspects of book 1 and other ones not so much. So this is like, it's a thriller series, mystery thriller kind of thing, where we have a special agent is our main character. I don't remember a ton, but yeah, would like to continue that. This one might be more of a winter TBR book. It takes place in October, which I know is technically still autumn, but for me it feels like winter. But anyway, it's Stephen King's 11/22/63. Now, this is a like science fiction-y story of JFK's assassination, but I think people are going back in time and trying to change history or something. I don't really know. I don't really want to know, but I know it has to do with some time travel and JFK's death, which I don't know if it's a death in this story. Fun fact, something else that occurred on this day that is lesser known because I think JFK's assassination kind of overshadowed it, and because he was a private person, C.S. Lewis also died on the same day. Yeah, so I'm excited to read this book. I really wish I could have found the paperback version though, because it's another thick one. It's 900-ish pages, and hardcovers are just so much heavier. Okay, we got one more stack of books. We've got this many more books. 2 of them we're going to unwrap because I'm in the mood. So this one was on a TBR a while ago. I never got to it. The Devil in the White City by Eric Larson. This has to do with the Chicago World Fair in 1893, and there's like, I think, a serial killer. I think it's based on a true story, but a lot of people don't really like, I think, his like literary license maybe that he took. I'm not really sure, but I'm very curious about the story, so I want to read it myself. Then I have 2 books that I was sent that I want to read. I've got The Paris Deception by Bryn Turnbull. This one is a World War II, I don't know the exact date, setting in Paris. June 1940 is when we start. So I'm curious about this one. It's one of the few World War II books on this list. Fantasy-wise, I have The King's Feather. This is a YA Christian fantasy, and the little blurb here says, "Rescue Mom, handle the prophesied power, and don't fall in love." Sure, no problem at all. So I would like to read this one. Fantasy and fall really go well together in my opinion. Oh, another one I'm very excited about. I'm not sure this one really has fall vibes, but I would like to read it. Is The All-American by Susie Finkbeiner. Maybe I could read it like soonish while it's still kind of like technically summer. So this is 1952, and we have something to do with the American Girls Professional Baseball League. Honestly, with Susie Finkbeiner's name on here, that's all I need to know. She will make me cry, but it's worth it. It's always worth it. Going off of covers, this is one of the most autumnal looking books I have. Wayward. This was my one and only attempt at book of the month, you guys. I bought it. I was supposed to get it at a discounted price. They overcharged me. I complained. I got some money back, but I haven't even been interested in reading the book yet. I was supposed to read it a while ago and I haven't got to it. I think I might not like the book, but I really love the cover, so I was like, do I keep the book because of the cover? It's one of those conundrums. This has a triple timeline, 2019, 2019, 1619, and 1942. So we follow, I think it's like a woman from each time period that are all part of one family. I might like it. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, 2 to unwrap. Assuming I like pulled the right books, I know which ones these are. Yeah, okay, I got one right. This is Mrs. Jeffries Takes a Second Look. This actually has 3 Mrs. Jeffries books in it. I think numbers 4, 5, and 6. And I think these are just like mystery stories with the main character, Mrs. Jeffries, and I like mystery type stories with elderly main characters. You know, you got Miss Marple, you've got Mrs. Polifax, that's more like espionage-ish, Thursday Murder Club, like it's just a thing. And so I really want to give this series a try. These are Victorian mysteries. I hope I like it. The next one I have to unwrap, I'm so in the mood for right now. It's very much Jonathan Strange vibes, I think. And that is Babel, or Babel, doesn't really matter. I looked up how the author R.F. Kuang, Rebecca Kuang, pronounces it in an interview. She pronounced it Babel, so that's what I'm going with. So we are 1928, and this is a fantasy world where, I don't know, there's some kind of like magic in regards to language. I don't like to know a whole lot going into my books. This book was well loved last year on BookTube, but with booktubers that tend to read more popular books, I'm not sure I'm gonna like it. Jared doesn't really think I'm gonna like it. He read it, and he didn't love it, and he doesn't think I'm really gonna like it. So there's that. Okay, that is all that I own for books that I want to read this fall. There are a couple books coming out that I just want to highlight. I've been sharing some upcoming releases over on Instagram, especially in my stories. So if you want to keep up with like new releases that I'm excited about, definitely check out my Instagram stories. But there's a couple that I want to mention now because I might get to them this fall. Would really like to. The new Thursday Murder Club book is being released in September. I think it's called The Last Devil to Die, and we follow a group of retirees in this retirement village that apparently like a lot of murders happen in and around there. I've really enjoyed the series and I've listened to them all. I'm tempted to read this one physically. I'm just excited to hang out with Joyce and Elizabeth and all the friends again. So we'll see. I feel like the series might take a turn where I stop liking it. The author's like towing a few lines that I'm not a huge fan of, but hopefully he can just stay away from there and it will be good. Amanda Cox, her new book just came out, He Should Have Told the Bees. I think it came out like a week or 2 ago, and I want to read that one. Her books make me cry. It's worth it, and I'm curious about this one. I actually haven't read anything about it yet because I just know I want to read it because she wrote it. And then the last one that's like quite autumnal feeling they would like to read this autumn. Well, there's kind of 2. Let's also say the new Myrtle Hardcastle book. It's called Myrtle Means an Opportunity. This is a Victorian mystery, middle grade mystery series. The audiobooks are fantastic. I love the footnotes, and I think this is book 5 in the series, which means there's probably a new Aggie Morton book coming out, but I have not heard for sure. They've been coming out like right around the same time. Okay, and then what I was going to say is Jamie Jo Wright has a new book coming out, and hers always have autumnal vibes, kind of like eerie. And this one is The Lost Boys of Barlow Theatre. And once again, like I don't need to know anything because it's Jamie Jo Wright. I just read all of her books. It's probably dual timeline. I don't know anything else because I don't need to. So that is my September TBR, the books I'm going to be like prioritizing, definitely trying to read. And then my autumnal TBR, I'm actually just going to go and like put back on my shelf and hopefully pick them up as I'm interested, kind of put them all together so I have like an autumnal shelf. What I've been noticing lately is I wrapped a bunch of books. It was really cool, but I wrapped books that I'm very excited about, and now that I can't see their spines, I'm so much less excited about them. So I have been tempted to just go and unwrap them all and put them back on my shelf. It seems kind of ridiculous, especially when you consider how long I spent wrapping all those books, but I might just be doing that soon. I would love to hear, like, do you like to look at the books on your shelf, like their unread books, and does seeing the spines make you excited? Or is that just me? I could just be a weirdo too. So thanks so much for joining me, guys. Let me know what you plan on reading in September. If you have like autumnal vibes books you plan on reading this year, and especially if you have suggestions for me that are like autumnal, let me know. Let's just chat all the bookish things in the comments like usual.